by the banks of the canal today, not the usual canal. I'll just show you because it's quite a pastoral scene. You know, look. I usually do these when I'm by the canal. Usually it's by the Trent and Mersey Canal, which is near where I live. I'm not there right now. I'm near the Shropshire Union Canal near Chester. It's quite nice actually. I'm over here because I'm sorting out a bit of bees' knees. I'm actually trying to change the nature of my job a little bit, as a matter of fact, because a lot of my job is I do university teaching. That's what I do. My job for quite a number of years now has been mostly managerial, which has been fine actually, but I do fancy a change, you know. I want to do something slightly more creative, so I'm over here doing some negotiating to try and get a gallery exhibition up and going for later on this year, which I might be able to do, we'll see. Not here by the canal obviously, but in the town not too far away from where I am. Yeah, but that's not, yeah, what I'm thinking about actually is depression again. Fascinating. Because I made a couple of videos either yesterday or maybe it was this morning, I can't remember, yesterday probably, about depression, and I had some really interesting comments that made me think, and someone was kind enough to send me an article which I'll leave a link to, and to this person in the information box. Because just to come out of that one, what I was saying was that you know, that there's this set of ideas that depression, I don't mean clinical depression, I mean just the kind of feeling of the symptoms of feeling low. The idea is those have been selected for by natural selection because they promote a certain kind of cognitive awareness. They allow you to focus on details, they allow you to engage in analytical thought, and they keep you away from distractions like other people. And then I just kind of finished that with a little personal reflection that from my own point of view, although you know, when I am depressed, I find it makes it worse if I try to consciously get myself out of that situation and put myself into a situation where other people are, or where I can try to be distracted. You know what I mean? When I try to cognitively change my cognitive behaviour in order to change my mood. It might change my mood, but quite often it doesn't. And yeah, I've just been thinking about that. And partly in relation, as I said, to this article that someone sent me, which was basically asking that question, you know, if someone is feeling depressed and they're engaged in that kind of behaviour, you know, isolating themselves, perhaps not eating properly, and perhaps with low libido, over focusing on a particular issue, that kind of thing, that if you regard that as a problem that needs to be solved, is it better to solve it by leaving them in it, or is it better to solve it by taking them out of it, consciously distracting? That's the kind of question. And there was two kind of models or metaphors that they were running through that. The first is this idea that you're attracted to the problem and you're kind of linked to the problem in the way that magnets are linked to one another. And if magnets are linked to one another and you pull them apart, then when you pull them apart the connection gets weaker and weaker and weaker. And by analogy, if you pull a person away from the problem and that attraction is like a magnet, then that attraction becomes weaker and weaker and they'll feel better. That's the first model. The second is that your connection to the problem is like a spring. So as you pull the person further and further away from the problem, distract them consciously, try and get them to cheer up by taking them out of the situation, it does the opposite to what a magnet does. If you pull a spring away, of course, the attraction gets stronger and the tension gets stronger, and in all likelihood the person would feel worse. So that's the kind of model that we're talking about in terms of magnets and springs. But is it best to distract a person by pulling them away from the problem, or is it better to leave them close up and deal with the problem there and there? And what it was basically saying was, and it was heavily qualified, is that it's probably better to treat problems as if they were magnets and take the person away from the problem because it will make them feel better. But the qualifier was important. So what can happen in that situation, or what he said, what tends to happen actually, not just can happen, is that they go back to the problem. As soon as the diversion or the distraction is over, the person goes back to the problem, often in a more connected and more deeply engaged and more unpleasantly, and feeling more unpleasant about it than they were before. Which I think correlates with my experience. Certainly, of course, it's possible if I'm down about something to distract myself. You know, I can, you know, someone can ask me, "Oh, come on, Fred, look a bit depressed. Let's go to the pub," and I can say, "All right then." and then knock a couple of pints back and have a bit of a laugh, and I'm fine. But usually that's just a temporary distraction, and you go back to the problem, it's still there, and you feel a bit worse. And of course, crucially for me, it doesn't solve the problem. You know what I mean? Which I think is what is kind of built into that idea, because it's assuming that this behaviour is negative behaviour. Whereas if you see it as potentially beneficial behaviour with a very concrete aim of trying to solve a problem, then it doesn't help to take a person away from the situation unless you are capable of solving the problem yourself. It's probably better to try to find a way to support the situation with them in it and get the problem solved. I felt like a bit of a confused ramble. But anyway, thanks for those people who left those comments. They were very helpful and moved my thinking on usefully. And also to the person who sent me that article, thank you very much. It was, it's just what I needed to kind of put the tin hat on that thinking. So thanks very much.